Welcome back to another episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, certified family life educator, life coach, and founder of the Empower Her Steps. And this season, we're exploring one of the most beautiful yet challenging journeys in faith, and that's living out the fruit of the Spirit. Each episode will sit down with guests who share real stories of how God has grown, tested, and restored these fruits in their lives. From joy and patience to kindness, love, and self-control. Today, I'm so excited to welcome and introduce Veronica Holland to the show. Veronica, welcome to the Good Morning Minute.
Thank you, and I feel very welcomed, and it's great to be here, Angelina. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on the show.
Yes, absolutely. And I look forward to getting to know you even further, a little bit about your story as we get into the heart of our conversation. But before we do so, I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about who you are and what fills your days right now.
Well, I'm Veronica. I am a minister. I work in the health field, have for over a dozen years. I have a teenage son, which is really exciting and awesome. And I have been through a journey. I have been through a journey that really changed my life. That started about 2 years ago when I discovered that I had breast cancer. Not only did I have breast cancer, I had bilateral breast cancer, as well as it had moved to my lymph nodes. So I really began a journey where my faith, I feel, was really refined. And I really had to learn to be patient on a whole nother level than what I had ever experienced. But God definitely brought me through that and refined me.
Mm. I love the joy just in the heart of just your intro that you carry, because I know it wasn't always that. It couldn't have been that when you get that devastating impact of that news of cancer. And that's such a scary thing for so many of us. I've experienced it in the sense of my dad passed away due to leukemia. So, I mean, I saw his year-long struggle with that. And it comes out of the blue, and, there's no rhyme or reason to it. We just hear about it sometimes, unfortunately. Um, but I love that joy behind your introduction there. And it gives such a great sounding visual because you're using your words, and I can just hear the heart you have of who you are. So now I want to shift a little bit and talk about today's theme, which is the fruit of the Spirit. And I want to ask you, Veronica, when you think about the fruit of the Spirit, which one stands out most in your life right now and why?
I would say patience, um, patience, but also joy, because it required a lot of patience. Just when I first was diagnosed, and then they started talking about this is what's going to be your treatment plan. And
Mhm.
so this wasn't going to be something that was going to happen overnight. There were sequential things that had to take place: chemotherapy, surgery, radiation therapy, monthly injections, and then for 5 to 10 years, medication. So it's really a lot to unpack when you know that your life is getting ready to be so drastically changed and shifted, and that you're going to have to, really persist and really be resilient going through all of these different, facets of your treatment. It
Mhm.
requires a lot of patience, and I had to grow patience on a whole nother level than I just could have ever imagined, because I knew that I was going to have to go through this process. I didn't get, sometimes people are able to be healed. God heals them immediately or very quickly. But in this case, I was going to have to go through the process. And what that did is refine my faith, but that required that I had to learn a new degree of patience, where you are going to make it through this process, but you are going to have to go through the process. You're
Mhm.
not going to be able to go around it. You're not going to be able to jump over it. You're going to have to go through the process. And then getting to the other side of it and now feeling that joy where when I was laying on the floor and I was saying, am I going to die from this? Is this going to kill me? And I certainly didn't feel joy at all. I felt completely overwhelmed. But that's what God did, is he hit that reset in me. And so now I feel like I'm able to really look at the joy in so many things, including just being alive, of course.
Mhm. Wow. And I can imagine just the test in those two elements of your life, like the joy, because the amount of treatment that you described you had to endure. I can just imagine the toll it took on your body. From I know in the experience that I witnessed my dad going through his own treatment, like he lost his hair, um, his body shrunk. Just it just you just saw like a deterioration because I mean you're technically pushing poison into your body in hopes of killing this disease, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, I can imagine days where you're looking in the mirror and going, I'm gonna keep joy, I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna walk through it. I'm gonna, maintain my patience. Like every day that was probably tested for you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. And my condolences about your father. I'm so
Oh.
sorry that occurred. It is something where you really have to work at
Mhm.
feeling that joy. Like your joy can feel like it's almost emptied out. Because I can remember it was probably January 2024. I had been doing chemo for about 5 weeks. By then, all of my hair, except for a couple of strands, had fallen out. And I used to have I had long hair. I knew it was coming, but there's nothing quite like when you look in the mirror and you're bald. And it's certainly not because you chose to be. So most of my hair is gone. And then another thing that happened is that I had I had a reaction to the medication. And so my whole face broke out in acne, my whole entire face. So I remember January 2024 looking in the mirror and saying, I don't even recognize who this person is. Um, my face covered in acne, no, just about no hair. Um, and I just felt like, who is this person? But I had to, of course, push past that. I'm still the same Veronica inside. My spirit is still the same. And I had
Mhm.
to fight through what I was seeing on the surface, the visible effects of this trial. And
Mhm.
look for those pockets of joy. Look for the things that made me smile, that still helped get me out of bed, which was my faith, knowing that I had to be here for my son. I have to keep pushing. There's no way that I can give up. I can't give in. I got to keep moving because I have to be here for my son.
Mhm. Wow. And man, I mean, I can just imagine because I mean, even just in normal aging, I'm 49 years old and I look in the mirror and I'm like, surely that can't be me, with the gray hair and,
Yep.
all the things that a woman's body goes through at this age. Because I definitely still feel the youthfulness of who I was in my early years. And I mean, I can just imagine. And, to be hit with this and looking back and seeing chunks of your hair falling out, just this acne that you described, and going, no, that's not who I am. I know who I am, and holding strong to that. So what was it that helped you stay rooted in your faith during this time?
Talking to God a lot. I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to God a lot. Um, of course, reading the Bible, reading the verses. There's
Yeah.
my favorite verse is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that was pivotal
Yeah.
because it was going to require Christ, because there's no way I would have gotten through the chemotherapy, the surgery, and the radiation without Christ being the power within me. Um,
Mhm.
Prayer. What happened as I was doing the chemotherapy, in order to protect my immune system, I would go to church in person one week, and the next week I would watch it online. So when I went there in person, I had to have my mask on, make sure I'm sanitizing my hands, trying to keep germs away. But just about every Sunday, I would go to the altar and my pastor would pray for me.
Mhm.
And I just needed to be there in that space of the fellowshipping and the praising God and worshiping through what I was going through. Because everybody's going through something. Now, everybody wasn't necessarily going through breast cancer, but they're going through something. But there's something about being there in the presence of God, fellowshipping. It says where two or more are there, he is in the midst.
Yes.
So, are gathered, he's in the midst. And so there's something about that fellowshipping that just did something for my spirit, that helped give me, that extra little fuel So that, because within a few days after, I'm here at service on Sunday, but in a few days I'm going to treatment again, and I got to get hooked up, and I got to get these medications, and my hair is falling out, and all these different symptoms that I'm dealing with. But this is helping to give me some extra fuel. It reminds me, when I was a kid, there was a book called The Little Engine That Could. And the little
Yes.
engine is small, but it had to keep telling itself, I think I can, I think I can, to get up that big old hill. And so I kind of liken that to myself, analogous to, I got a big hill to climb, but
Mm.
I can do it. I think I can, I think I can. But the I can, again, is fueled by Jesus getting me from one step to the next one down the finish line.
Mm. And that's so powerful because I feel it resonating with my spirit right now. I just got all the chill bumps going on. But that is so powerful for those that are listening, maybe going through something, some kind of struggle within their own life situation right now. Mind over matter. Like you really, it really is faith, right? When we're stepping into this unknown territory that life tends to bring to us, from time to time, we we have a choice to either look at it and face it head on, or look at it and cower and start thinking about all the things that could go wrong. This could go wrong. I'm not going to survive. Like you mentioned, laying there just going, I could just literally just give up. Am I going to die from this? And embracing that idea, then everything else in your life will probably lean towards that truth. But to face it and going, no, I'm going to give every bit of what I can to this journey, and I'm going to overcome it. I'm going to um, be a testimony within myself of this situation, this whatever season this is in my life. And there's going to be an experience of growth, or maybe even there was some development and pruning in this season, maybe with your character. I mean, what was the experience like? Because you're embracing this, but you're also fighting it, and you're not going to give in to the what ifs. And so,
Mm-hmm.
what was that like for you as far as your character, and how did I mean? What was the lessons learning that you're learning about yourself?
Well, I remember my sister, right before I started treatment, she was telling me you should journal. And I really think she was prophetically speaking, because this is what was going to
Mm,
come in the future. I'm
mhm,
going to write about this journey.
mhm,
And at the time I was thinking, gosh, I don't want to talk about this. I don't even want to be going through it. Honestly, that's the real, the reality. Like, I don't want
mm,
to be in this situation, but I'm here. So in my character, of course, it had to be letting go of what I wanted at that moment, letting go of what I thought I was going to be going through in this season of my life, and accepting the challenge that God had brought to me,
mhm,
submitting to it, understanding He's going to get me through it, but I can't go around it. I'm going to have to go through this. But as I go through it, when I get to the other side, it shifted from just being about, well, I made it. I'm very happy, ecstatic about that. Praise the Lord. But what am I going to do with this story to help someone else? So I'm
mhm,
going to have to step out beyond myself and wanting to just keep all of these, all of the information and everything that I went through to myself. And I'm going to share this because I want another woman to know, even if it's not breast cancer, but whatever it is she's going through, that you can make it through this
mhm,
trial, believing and trusting in God. And that was going to require that I step out of self, being wanting to be private about everything that's happening and not really wanting to share what I was going through. I was going to have to step out in faith.
mhm, mhm. That is important too, because we all go through situations in life, and what the world and the enemy, however you define it for yourself, those that are listening, tries to tell us is it's just you. Nobody cares, nobody wants to know, nobody wants to be there for you. But that is a lie. That is a lie that is being spoken to you. And when we go through something so devastating, or even just life, it doesn't have to be so devastating or whatnot, but when we can empower our voice to speak up and say, you know what, it was hard. And there were times where I messed up, and there were times where I just didn't know if I was going to be able to pull through. But to be so vulnerable and allowing yourself to express that to someone else that may need to hear that story because they're going through their own trial, it can empower someone else to go, you know what? If that person can do it, so can I. And again, where two or more are gathered. And so that is where we come together in unity and in belief and in faith to know that we can overcome things. We can overcome situations. We can empower ourselves to help strengthen another person. What do they say? Iron sharpens iron.
That's
Uh,
right.
It's exactly what
Yes.
it is. So so you talked about the journaling because you knew it was going to, well, you didn't know at that time, but it has become a book now.
Mhm.
Um, so what other things do you do now, knowing that joy and patience were something that were refined during this season in your life to continue to nurture those two elements in your life?
Well, one of the things I've done is I've just launched a ministry called Her Heart Ministries, and the
Mhm.
Her is Healed, Empowered, Reset. And so, what I'm really looking to do is just share with other women about healing. And the healing is more than physical because it could be emotional, it could be spiritual healing. But that we get to that state of where we're in a healed state because that's how God wants us to be. He says in His Word, 3 John 1, Beloved, above all, I wish that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So that's the template that God has for us. That's how He wants us to live. He doesn't want us to walk around every day feeling overwhelmed and depressed and just disgusted with our life and feeling like we are not a victor. He wants us to know that we are more than conquerors because that's what it says in His Word.
Yes.
So I really have the heart to reach out to other women and just to really share the message, to be inspiring based on the word, to know God wants you to come up higher. He wants you to be empowered. He wants you to walk in healing. He wants you to walk in victory and to be reset. So if you're still carrying baggage, if you're still
Mhm.
carrying all of these traumas that you feel like I'm not living life as I should be, to know that God can restore you and He can hit the reset button and have you walk in newness.
Mm, mm. And he says for he will make all things good. So it doesn't go to waste. It doesn't go to
Mm-mm.
waste. If you
Nope.
don't allow it to, it won't go to waste at all. And you don't have to live in vain. Like you can embrace what has happened to you. You can understand it and by all means heal from it. I love your acronyms, by the way, for her. So empower her steps. The acronyms that I have for mine is her. And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
heal, elevate, rebuild. And so
Awesome.
I love the fact that we align with that first letter and it's healing because you do need to do that. And healing isn't a one and done situation. It is a lifelong journey because you will have moments where you're pulled back into a memory, when you're pulled back into a feeling. Maybe going to that doctor's visit, the next time and going, okay, what's happening? You relive those moments of, that fear crept in or whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
so healing is a lifelong journey and it isn't linear. It is spiral and ups and downs and twists and turns. But
Mm-hmm.
when you are in a place where you're understanding self, you're understanding who you are, you're understanding where you come from, you then can take the pen and write your story moving forward. And you no longer become a slave to fear. You no longer become
Mm-hmm.
uh, bound by your circumstances. They no longer dictate your actions because now you become aware of what is thinking from, you're thinking from the place you're thinking from, and you can change those habits, you can change those beliefs, you can change the behaviors, and you can change your life for sure. Um, so,
Absolutely.
Veronica, let me ask you, what would you say to someone struggling to live out the same fruit today? So, someone that's struggling with joy and patience, what would you tell that person?
I would ask them to go to God
Mm,
and ask Him to reach into their heart and to shift that because He's really the one, because He created us. We're created in His image. He created us to do good things. And He has given us a
mm,
blueprint in the Bible Those verses are there so that we can instill those, not just read them, but actually really infuse them into our lives and practice what it's telling us in the word. So when it's saying that we're victors and conquerors and healed, those are things that we have to really take into our spirit and then walk them out.
Mm.
So really we go to God. My suggestion would be to go to God. If you're feeling, that you have a scarcity of joy, a scarcity of patience, of goodness, kindness, go to God with everything. Because that's the thing with having a relationship, a true relationship with Him. It's like with
Mhm.
any relationship, you have to nurture it. Because if you don't nurture it, it's definitely going to wither. It won't, be able to flourish. But that's where
Mhm.
we go to God. He wants us to come to Him in all things. That's why it says to pray without ceasing, because it's not that you're doing a prayer necessarily where you're doing a very formal prayer where it's,
Mhm.
you're even asking for a set, linear things. It's really where you are having relationship and talking to Him,
Yes.
and just talking to Him and growing closer to Him, and listening to Him as He comforts you and gives
Mhm.
you direction and guides you. So yeah, you're going to ask for things. Hey, Lord, I need help with X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, hey, Lord, I just need you to help me because I'm having a really bad day. I'm really struggling.
Mhm.
I really feel overwhelmed. I feel like I can't make it. I feel like this is too much. Whatever it is that you're going through, He wants to hear all of those things because He wants to speak to you and reassure and comfort you.
I love that. I mean, and it's so true. Go to God. And it doesn't have to be a formal prayer where you're like, in your prayer closet. I mean, definitely do those things too. But it is. It's like I'm calling up my best friend and I'm, texting or whatever, and you're
Mm-hmm.
having those moments with him. He listens to all things, whether it's a verbal, out loud prayer, or maybe it's just a silent prayer that's in your heart and your mind. He is listening, he's tuned in. And the more you invest in that relationship, the more you see him evident in your life for sure. And I just want to say that was such a powerful reminder. That fruit does not grow overnight, it takes time. Pruning and sometimes even storms that bring out the sweetest harvest. Before we wrap up, Veronica, I would like to move into a final reflection. And I want to ask you if you could leave our listeners with one seed of truth or encouragement to plant in their own lives today, what would it be?
It would be trust God in the valley moments as well as the summit.
Mm.
Trust Him in all phases of your life and all seasons, because He who has begun a good work is going to see it to completion. So He has imparted into each of us an assignment and a purpose. And He's been working it out all throughout our life to help us get to the finish line. So we just need to trust in Him, because just like with Jeremiah, we know that His plans for us are for good and not evil, to give us a future and a hope.
Mm. Amen. And that was my life verse for such a long time. My pivotal moment coming out of a domestically violent relationship myself. And so I definitely will say he all things for good, and he does definitely have a hope and a future for us for sure. Before we close, Veronica, I want you to tell our listeners where they can connect with you or learn more about your work, your ministry, or any upcoming projects you might have.
Awesome. Well, you can find me on Facebook under either my main page, Veronica Holland. Also, I have my ministry page, Her Heart Ministries. For my book, it's called Survivor to CEO, and it is on Amazon Kindle right now, soon to be on paperback, as well as my website, shebuilds.biz.
Love it. And for those of you listening that didn't catch it, it's okay. It'll be posted along with the podcast interview. So, Veronica, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story with us today. Your journey reminds us that fruit of the Spirit isn't about perfection, it's about progress, faith, and the daily choices to walk in love and truth. To our listeners, if today's conversation spoke to you, take a moment to reflect on what fruit God may be nurturing in you right now. Remember, growth takes time, but every seed planted in faith will bear fruit in due season. Until next time, friends, stay rooted, stay real, and stay growing. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.